I love that hat.
That's cute.
Is it not on?
It's on. That's okay though.
All right, if I can get everybody to take their seats, we're going to start in 1 minute. Of the evening, the forum for the Kansas House District 41 between Representative Pat Proctor and Mr. Harry Schwartz. I'd like to thank everybody that attended that first event, the State Board of Education event. But in saying what happened at that event, we'd like you to control your outbursts from the crowd so we can concentrate on what the candidates are saying. And if you have something that you want to say to a candidate individually, I know both of these gentlemen and they'll be more than glad to talk to you after the event if you want to get up personal with them and ask them something that's very important to you. So feel free to do that. Anybody that wants to submit a question to be asked by our moderator, Mr. McBurney, can do so. We have paper in the back in the foyer. You fill it out and you'll drop your question in the wicker basket and one of our guys will bring the question up here to Mr. McBurney. We also have a free will offering that is going to be on the table there, the wicker basket also, that will be given to the Church of the Open Door for them donating the facility to us free of charge this evening. So please consider donating into that if you'd like to. For those of you that are tuning in live or just coming in late, you missed the opening introduction. My name is Mac McCowan, and I am a member of We the People of Leavenworth County, and we are just a group of grassroots citizens that cherish our God-given inalienable rights and the liberties enshrined in our founding documents. And our hope is that we will elect candidates that respect our liberty as much as the members of our group do. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. John G. McBurney, our moderator for this race, and let's get started.
Thank you, Mac, and thank you everybody else who is here, because this is for you. This is an opportunity for you to hear from these candidates and to determine who you want to vote for in November. As you heard before, maybe we are highly, highly hopeful that everyone will vote for whichever candidate you believe is the best. And that's part of what we want to do here, is give you the information you need to make that decision. We will start with questions from the committee, and then we'll switch to questions from you folks. And we already have quite a stack of them. Please bring more. Any questions that we do not get to ask tonight because of time will be emailed to the candidates, and they will have a short period of time to answer those questions, return their answers to us, and we will post those on our social media site so that you get to see their responses. Just a warning, any questions that are specifically directed at one candidate and not the other will not be asked tonight. They will be forwarded to the candidate in question, and that candidate can do what they want with that question. All right? Having all that said, let's break the hermetic seal. Actually, first, almost forgot, the candidates are going to have an opportunity to introduce themselves and make an opening statement. And we'll start with Mr. Schwartz.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking We the People for hosting this panel. I'd like to thank Ms. Proctor for being here. I'd also like to thank him for his service to our state and our country. My name is Henry Schwartz. I'm a candidate for the 41st District, Kansas House of Representatives. I served our country in the Army for 12 and a half years. During my time in the Army, I was stationed 10 years here in the Fort Leavenworth area, serving in the United States Disciplinary Barracks. 2 of those years I spent in Guantanamo Bay, serving side by side with our soldiers in the trenches with our detainees that we have down there. I'm currently employed by the Veteran of Foreign Wars. My job is very rewarding. I get to help veterans every day, returning over $56 million back to veterans in their pockets last year, cutting through the bureaucracy and the red tape that the VA has and getting our veterans what they deserve and what they need. I'm also a father of 4 amazing little girls. Well, not so little, one just graduated high school. Megan just graduated from Leavenworth High School. My daughter Madeline is a sophomore, and then Elena and Addison are both at the elementary level. What I don't like seeing is the attack on our school boards. That's why I've decided to run. Our kids don't deserve that. Our parents don't deserve that. We need to allow our teachers to teach. We need to trust our teachers. But as parents, we need to be responsible and making sure we're involved in our children's education and make sure they're not being taught things that we don't want them to be taught. So that's why I'm running, is because we need to change. There's too much division, there's too much hate. I really hope to gain your support, and I'm looking forward to this forum, and thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor.
So thank you, John, for moderating tonight. Thank you to We the People of Leavenworth County for hosting this event, and to Church the Open Door. There's a lot of new faces here, a lot of folks that I already know, and I'm sure there's some folks that are just tuning in for the first time online. So tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 25 years in the Army. I served 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. I'm also a small business owner. My wife and I own Bon Thai Restaurant here in town. We also have another one over in Manhattan. We started COVID with 4. We're down to 2 now, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about why that is. I also am an educator. I teach day a week at Wichita State in the Homeland Security program. As a tenure track professor, I also teach a little history there. In my first term serving you, I kept my word to you, and I got results for Leavenworth. I kept my word to you in bringing jobs and opportunity here to Leavenworth. I passed the Historic Kansas Act. It's going to create new investment here in our historic downtown, encourage banks to invest in projects in our historic downtown to get these storefronts with small businesses in them, growing jobs and growing our economy. I voted for the Apex bill that's going to bring Panasonic right across the river here in DeSoto with 4,000 jobs to our region. Hopefully, it's the suppliers that are going to bring another 4,000 jobs. Some of them will make Leavenworth County their home. I also kept my word to you by standing with those who protect us. For years and years, we heard empty promises about how we were going to get a veterans home here in Northeast Kansas. Well, my first year, I sponsored a bill. I got the bill passed. We've got the funding. And this year, we got the funding up to $50 million. And I kept my word to you by safeguarding our liberty. As a member of the Elections Committee, I passed 2 bills, sponsored and passed 2 bills that are going to make it illegal to have voting machines that connect to the internet and are going to help clean up our voting rolls. I also was one of the 20 legislators that signed the first petition to bring us into special session. It drove a hearing and it drove a special session where we fought on the floor to protect Kansans from the unconstitutional mandates that Democrat Joe Biden had foisted on Kansans at the cost of their jobs if they didn't comply. If I have the honor to vote to return to Topeka, I'm going to go right back to work on these issues. I'm going to continue to keep my word and get results for Leavenworth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. First question. Start from the right side. How would the next session of the legislature be different if Derek Schmidt is elected governor? Mr. Proctor.
Well, let me tell you, a lot of the stuff that our Democrat governor's taking credit for got passed over her veto or got passed after she vetoed it once. You see her on television talking about how she axed the food tax. Well, if she had signed it 3 years ago when it was put on her desk, we'd already be at zero or near zero sales tax. We'd be at zero in January. The Fairness in Women's Sports Bill, which is just common sense. We passed it with an overwhelming majority. She vetoed it, and we didn't have the votes to override the veto. A Parents' Bill of Rights, 12 simple statements about what schools should have to do in cooperation with parents to put parents in charge of our kids' education. She vetoed it. We didn't have the votes to override the veto. So we get Derek Schmidt as our governor. We can start getting some things passed that we've been fighting her on for 4 years. Thank you.
Mr. Torres.
If Derek Schmidt's elected, we're in trouble. And the reason we're in trouble is because our freedoms are in trouble. We're not going to get access to medical marijuana here in Kansas. Okay? That's definitely going to happen. We're also going to have to probably wait on the food tax even longer because, as you know, my opponent voted this last session for it to be given out in relief in 3 years from now instead of giving us relief now when we need it.
I voted on the one bill we had.
Amen. Put together a better bill. Right now, that's what we're looking at as our freedoms and our liberties are at stake. Common sense healthcare, they tried to take it away from us August 2nd. They really did. But guess what? 62% of District 41 voted no. And they voted no because they believe in common sense healthcare. A woman's right to choose this healthcare, regardless of what anybody said. That's between her, her doctor, and her God. End of statement. That's what we're looking at. These things coming back to the table over and over again instead of getting things done that we need to get done here in the state of Kansas. That's why we need to bring our voice back and stop letting these representatives chip away at our freedoms and liberties at our county levels and allow our county elected officials to do what needs to be done. That's the problem here. There's too much interference with the government, and it continues every day. Thank you.
Do you believe that parents have the ultimate say-so regarding their children and their education? Mr. Schwartz.
As a parent with 4 children in the school system, absolutely we have a say. I have a say every day in my children's education. I have an app on my phone that tells me when my daughter's grade changes. I have teachers email me when my children are missing assignments. I am involved in my children's education. That's our choice to be involved. As a parent, I choose to be involved in my children's education, and that's what I urge you to do. If you want to be involved in your children's education, be involved. Don't allow representatives and politicians to dictate to us how our children should be educated. That's our job. We're the parents. We raise our children. Thank you.
So that's the first of many times when you're going to hear my opponent talk to you about what he believes. He's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. But I'll tell you, every Democrat in the House voted against the Parent Bill of Rights. Do you think this guy is going to be the guy who's going to stand up to all the Democrat representatives when they're telling them, if you want to come back, you've got to vote this way? I don't think so. I don't think so. The Republican caucus brought the Parents' Bill of Rights, which empowers parents to have a role in their kids' education. We're talking simple stuff like your school can't administer medical treatments without your knowledge.
That's already happened.
Things like you having the right to know what your kids are learning in school. Having the right to know what surveys your kids are being given. There's one party that stands for that. There's one party that tells you they stand for it at the election and then goes up there and votes the other way. By the way, on the food sales tax, we got one bill put in front of us. I hope that if my opponent gets elected, he's not going to lead by internet meme. But there's some meme going around that we all voted against food sales tax. One bill came to the floor of the House, and we voted for it. If it had come with a flat removal of the sales tax, I would have voted for it. I voted to get rid of the sales tax so you'll have more money in your pocket to combat this inflation that tax and spend liberals have foisted on us.
I would like to remind both candidates that this is a forum, not a debate. Would ask you please to confine your comments to your position as much as possible, please. Okay. Next question. How and why should the salary and benefits of state legislators be changed, if at all? Mr. Proctor.
I will absolutely oppose any raise in our benefits or our salary, as I have since I've been up there. This is a public service, folks. Too many people up there in Topeka consider this a job. They go up there and they get more concerned about getting reelected than they do about serving the people that sent them there. If you make it more lucrative, you're just encouraging that kind of behavior. This is a public service. I'd be honored to go back and continue to serve you because there's a lot more stuff I want to get done. But when I'm done, I will happily hand this baton on to the next person because it's not a job. It's a public service. And when you start thinking about it like a job, and you start thinking about your 401k, you start thinking about what kind of pay bump we're going to get, you stop thinking about the people at home.
Mr. Schwartz.
I'll be honest with you, I don't disagree with him. This is a service. This is a service to you, the people. This is something that we want to do. We're out here, for the most part, our own blood, sweat, and tears every day, grinding to get your vote. So I too would oppose any type of legislation that would give us a raise because this is not a job. This is a public service. And I want to represent you, the people, and our liberties. Thank you.
What is your position on the Sheriff Election Amendment, that is House Concurrent Resolution 5022 proposal, and why? Mr. Schwartz?
This goes back to another power grab by our representatives. Every county in the state of Kansas, with the exception of Riley, votes for a county sheriff. Why do we need to change our constitutional amendment for Riley County? If it's that big a deal, write a bill. If it's good enough, it'll get passed. If you really want to fix the problem, let the counties run your counties. If they choose to abolish the sheriff's department and merge them together, that's their business. This is just another GOP power grab by the extreme Kansas Republicans.
So I hope that my Democrat opponent reads legislation more closely when he's actually voting on it, because this amendment does nothing with Riley County. It allows Riley County to remain without an elected sheriff unless they decide to change later, and then they would become an elected sheriff, but that's up to them. The amendment doesn't in any way change how the police work and the sheriff's office works in Riley County. You know, I'm not an expert on every single topic, So when I don't know everything about a topic, I go find somebody who does know something about the topic. And so I talked to Sheriff Andy Dedeke. Sheriff Andy Dedeke said, hey, this is a great thing. We need to protect the position of sheriff as a elected position, as a check on the other arms of local government. Because down in Johnson County, when they were trying to lock people down and mandate masks and mandate behavior over COVID, and the sheriff acted as a check to try to stop them, they tried to fire the sheriff. They tried to do a charter to get rid of the elected sheriff. That's what started this whole amendment process. And so I trust our sheriff. Andy Dedeke is a dedicated public servant, and I'm going to side with folks that know what they're talking about, and I'm going to read legislation before I talk about it.
What is your position on the Rules and Regulation Amendment to the Kansas Constitution, House Concurrent Resolution 5014 proposal, and why? Mr. Proctor.
So when I was running to serve you last year, or 2 years ago, and I was standing out on the Capitol lawn with 200 of my closest friends, asking that the legislature do something to rein in the unchecked power of the Democrat governor at the time, that she was ruling through executive fiat, and there were no checks and balances. I came back and I told the folks that I wanted to vote for me that I believe that every decision that affects your life should be made by an elected official, and I believe that every elected official's decision should be subject to checks and balances. Right now, the executive branch, these departments that are appointed people working in offices, civil servants, dedicated civil servants, they're writing laws. And if they don't like the law we pass, they regulate it out of existence. And so this is a way for the legislature to reassert your power, the power of the people, to make sure that the executive branch is executing the laws and not making laws from their offices. But hey, it's up to you. That's why I put it on the ballot. You look at it and you decide if that's a power that you want to be able to be a check on the executive branch. We left it up to you.
Mr. Schwartz?
Removing our checks and balances is what this really does. It takes the executive branch and kind of makes it more of a figurehead, where we're looking at a 51-49 vote changes everything, where right now it's, 60-40. That checks and balances is there for a reason, to have that separation of powers. If you, the reason I'm voting no is because I truly believe that this is another GOP power grab by the extreme Kansas Republicans here in Leavenworth and in the state of Kansas. And the reason I'm saying that is because this bill takes away that checks and balances. It does not give, it gives more power to the representative than it does the people, if you read the bill and read what it's really about.
What is your role if you are elected as a public official? Mr. Schwartz?
My role if elected as a public official is to represent the people, to represent the majority, the way the Constitution was written, the way the Constitution was designed. I'm here to represent the people of our district, District 41. I'm not about my special interest. I'm not about the party's special interest. I'm not going to go against something or go for something that's going to hurt us. I want to help us. I want to give us relief. With that being said, that relief is what we really need. And we just need to get things done here. And we're just not getting them done. We're sitting here playing games, right? Changing amendments and doing other things when we could be getting tax relief. But we're not. We're not getting anything done. We need to get things done. Thank you.
Comment? sure how we're not getting tax relief. We've cut taxes $1 billion here in the last 2 years, but okay. It's an honor to serve you in Topeka as your representative, and as your representative, I'm your voice up there. And sometimes that means being, on the floor, speaking out against something I don't think is going to be right for our district. Sometimes it's in the committee rooms, or it's on one-on-one conversations, trying to navigate and trying to get legislation through that's going to benefit my neighbors. But as important as what I do there on the floor when we're in session is all the things that I've had the incredible opportunity to do for my neighbors in terms of just helping with problems. When nobody could get unemployment because they were in line behind $450 million of fraud, I was able to fight through all the unanswered phone calls and go straight to Department of Labor and get people the unemployment benefits that they deserve. When folks have issues with the VA, I've got a great relationship with Senator Moran, Senator Marshall, Congressman LaTurner. I can talk to them, talk to their staffs, and I can get help for folks. I've done it a dozen times. If you've got an issue, please get a hold of me. That's as important, if not more important, than the bills that we vote on, the bills that we pass, the bills that we fight over on the floor.
For those of you who were here the first session, this will sound familiar. Please define the term "the establishment" and explain why it is good or bad for we the people. Mr. Proctor?
In one of my other jobs, my wife says I need to pick one and stick to it here, but in one of my other jobs, I teach in a university setting in academia. And I'll tell you, some of the faculty meetings and the things that I hear faculty members, wrestle with when we should be focused on taking care of our kids and getting them educated and getting them ready for the workforce and getting them ready for the world, just make me shake my head. The most valuable advice that I've gotten, the best ideas that I've gotten, the legislation, beginning with the Historic Kansas Act that I sponsored and passed this year to get investment in our historic downtown. It didn't come from experts. It didn't come from people with PhDs. I've got one too, but it didn't come from PhDs. It came from regular folks that are fighting every day to make a living, grow their families, and make a future for their kids. And so I think that expertise at that in the form of letters after your name is frankly super overrated.
Yes, sir. Please define the term "the establishment" and explain why it is good or bad for we the people.
It's a good question. Depends on, the establishment. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not well versed in the establishment. I can tell you that every day I'm helping our veterans. There are red tapes and things that we need to cut through in bureaucracies of the government. But like I said, I'm not well versed on that, but thank you.
Do you think the federal government has overreached their purpose? Explain why and how you would combat that overreach in your official capacity. Mr. Schwartz.
If elected, my job is to help the people of Leavenworth. As I stated before, I'm going to do what's best for us. I'm not going to fall into these national talking points, and I really can't control what happens at the federal level. But as a legislator, I can do my best to protect you from the federal government taking more from us. That's what I can do for you. Thank you.
I'll give you an example. I mean, President Joe Biden stood up to a podium and just decided by executive fiat that we all had to get a medical treatment against our will.
Oh.
And if we didn't do it, we were going to be shut out of our jobs. And it wasn't just if you worked for the military or if you worked for the federal government. It's if you worked for a company that in some way worked for the federal government, which meant I was one of those folks, right? Because the university does research for the federal government. I mean, just about everybody was touched in some way by it here in Leavenworth. And, I told you where I stand on these things. No decision should be made by one person with no checks and balances. And so we all bowed up and we fought. I was one of the 20 people that signed the original call for a special session. It spurred hearings, which actually spurred a special session. We got into session, and we gave Kansans the weapons to fight that unconstitutional mandate while it worked itself out in court. And the courts proved us right. So that's our role. That's our role, to protect you from government overreach. And I'm going to do it as long as I have the honor to serve you.
What steps would you take to combat inflation? Mr. Proctor.
Well, the first part is put more money back in your pocket. That's why I voted to tax the food tax. That's why I voted to cut income taxes for every Kansan. That's why I fought like the third monkey trying to get on the ark to get the truth in taxation passed so we could finally stop the skyrocketing property tax increases. But the second part is lowering the price of goods. And the reason that goods cost so much is because we have the worst labor participation in 40 years here in Kansas. 33% of folks are sitting on the sidelines, not in a job, not in school. And those are working age people. Okay? 18 to 24-year-olds, 15% of them, not working, not in school. That is unsustainable as a state or a nation. So when the governor wanted to do away with work requirements for food stamps, I fought her on it. We all fought her on it, and we got it stopped. When we tried to pass, and did pass, work requirements for people on food stamps that are working less than 30 hours a week, if they're not disabled and they don't have dependents, because why wouldn't you want job training so that you can get a better job? So we mandated job training. Every single Democrat voted against it. The governor vetoed it, and thank God we were able to override the veto. We got to get Kansas back to work. That's the way out of inflation.
We do got to get Kansans back out to work. I absolutely agree with that. But we have to be able to create jobs. We got the Panasonic plant, right? Great investment for Kansas, not so much for Leavenworth. And the reason is because then people are not going to drive 40, 45 minutes to work every day. So is it really going to benefit us? Probably about as much as the industrial park down the street. We're not investing in our property. We're not putting our tax dollars where they need to go properly to get the relief, to create jobs, to bring in revenue to Leavenworth. Great job on the bridge. We got a bridge coming in. That bridge is going to bring in more traffic. We need to bring people from Missouri here to shop. And that's how we do it, is with our small businesses. Our mom and pop shops that we have here. Our local barber shops where you can go get your razor fade, or you can go to the candle shop and get your scented candles. We can bring more of that here if we start directing our money in the right places. Thank you.
Which is more important to you, your title or serving the needs of the people? Mr. Schwartz?
serving the needs of the people. I do it every day. Especially our veteran community, their spouses when they pass. I mean, look at my size. My title doesn't mean nothing. I was a sergeant in the Army. I did it for 12 and a half years. You won't know that. I don't need to tell you every time I get up here. This is what it's about, is you guys. It's really not about me. At the end of the day, win or lose. If I lose, I go home and go back to my life. I go back to work every day. I go back to being a father, taking care of my daughters. If I win, I get to go to Topeka and I get to do all that. My daughters are so proud of what I'm doing that this is what drives me every day. These are my kids. That's what's important. You guys, my children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren. The hate and division in this community is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Everybody's pointing fingers. Everybody wants to blame a party. The Democrats did this. The Republicans did that. If it's fact, yes. But why are we not holding individuals accountable? Let's hold those people at the top accountable. Let's protect our freedoms and our liberties. Our liberty comes first.
Which is more important to you, your title or serving the needs of the people?
So every day when the session's going on and I get in my car and I'm getting ready to drive off to Topeka, or every Tuesday when I get in my car and I go to drive down to Wichita when I'm not in session to teach, my wife reminds me that I'm costing her a fortune. Because, I could be making us, our family, a whole lot more money if I was, working in some high-paying, corporate job or working on post as a GS something. I could be making a lot more money if I was in there with her cutting vegetables a little more and down in Topeka legislating a little bit less. But I really do love Leavenworth. This town took care of my family for 5 years while I was off in Iraq, Afghanistan, when I was, a geographical bachelor in El Paso, when I was deployed to Jordan, when ISIS invaded Iraq. It's a debt I can't repay. And so, it's costing us a lot of money. I could be doing a lot more profitable things, but I don't think I could be doing a more important thing. I love this town, and I want to bring it back from the brink.
What grade, A through F, would you give the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for its performance in the last 24 months, and why?
I've been very frustrated with the politicization of science over the last 3 years. You go to the KDHE website, you cannot find the number of kids that have died of the flu since the pandemic started. They won't report the numbers. CDC will report the numbers, and they'll tell you during that period when COVID was killing people, flu wasn't killing kids, wasn't killing anybody. So, when they were trying to make us all adhere to the mask mandate that they wanted to foist on us, that the legislature, before I got there, had wisely given the counties the ability to opt out of, the KDHE monkeyed the numbers. They monkeyed the numbers. They did 2 different axes so that it would look, and they just showed a very short period so that it would look like the mask counties had lower rates of COVID than the non-mask counties. And it took the Kansas Policy Institute to uncover what they were doing, and they finally admitted that they had done it and showed the correct data. If we're going to make decisions about people's health, we gotta acknowledge the real science. Like, for instance, a biological man, a 6-foot dude, even if he's had hormone therapy, is got an unfair advantage against girls and women competing in stores. It seems self-evident, but we're more concerned with the ideology than we are the science.
Thank you, Mr. Cross.
again, to me, any overreach by our government, I'm not for. And the COVID mandates and all that, I mean, if I'm gonna give them a letter grade, a C minus, they're doing what they're told. I do believe in our liberties and our freedoms. I do believe that some of these mandates did infringe on those. I, for one, was not for the vaccine mandate. I did not agree with it because it took away our freedom of choice. It took away our ability to make a decision on our own about our own health care. And it all ties back to our politicians wanting to make decisions about our health care. Brings us right back again. Medical marijuana, control our health care. They want to force vaccinate, control our health care. I'm not going to put up with our rights being infringed on. Thank you.
As an elected official, how do you intend on balancing the budget while honoring the wishes of the taxpayers whose money is used for the budget? Mr. Schwartz?
There is a few ideas out there. There's the Miller Amex bill, which we have an LABTRF fund that we haven't funded in over 20 years. That fund takes a percentage of the state sales tax and puts it into a fund. It's $54 million, and that money is to be distributed amongst the counties here in Kansas. And it's actually a Kansas statute that this is supposed to happen, and it hasn't been happening for 22 years. If we start, and the reason it stopped happening was because of 9/11. That's why they stopped funding it, because times got tough. We went into the recession and whatnot. But if we fund that, our county commissioners here in Leavenworth have already said that money's going right to property taxes. That's it. 100% of what we get from that fund is going to go right to our property taxes. So that's one way I want to combat our taxes. Another way, legalize marijuana. It's a no-brainer. Oklahoma, $19 million their first year in just licensure. Missouri, $220 million in revenue. And people are getting the health care that they deserve without the interference of politicians. Thank you.
So I hope you're listening really close, because the solution to taxing is to take your tax dollars from over here and put them over there, so you're paying them over here instead of paying them over there. I just can't understand that. And then we had a surplus of billions of dollars of our money last year that everybody was wanting to spend, but it was like it was Christmas. They wanted to spend it, and I fought hard to give it back in the form of tax cuts, the food sales tax cut, in the form of the income tax cuts, and the form of targeted tax cuts to get people back to work and back in our economy, growing jobs. There is just this huge appetite up there for spending our money. And they don't talk about it like it's our money. They talk about it like, we owe it to them. Our government works for us. And it is spending way too much of our cash. I talk to folks that are about to be forced out of their homes because the property taxes are rising to the point where they're paying more in property taxes than they used to pay in mortgage. The answer to that is not to take money from over here and put it over there. The answer is to spend less. The answer is to spend less, let you keep more of your money, and you figure out how to use it to do best for you and your family.
Time to start with citizen questions. If you are elected, what will you do to help veterans and service members in the 41st District? Mr. Proctor.
So in my first term, actually my first year, when I was running, we were in a forum with the chamber, I said that our current senator, our previous representative, have been trying for 4 years to get a veterans home built. I said, that's a great idea. If you send me up there, I'm going to file that bill and I'm going to get it passed. You know what I did? Went there, I filed it, I got it passed. It's a 70-bed veterans home somewhere up here in northeast Kansas. It's got a match from the federal government that right now we're trying to get, and I'm also trying to get the thing right here in Leavenworth. We've got a pretty good strong bid for that. I also voted in favor of an update to the Homestead Act that increases the eligibility for disabled veterans to get property tax relief. I tried and was not able to get for our active guard and reserve service members income tax exemption for military pay. If you send me back, I'm going to go right back to work on that because we want those folks to stay here in Kansas after they leave the military, so they're growing their families here and growing our economy. There's a lot of stuff left to do. We had a big summit here 2 weekends ago at the Capitol with all the leaders of the veteran service organizations, myself and Representative Croft. They came up with a list of 10 items that they want us to go to work on. If you send me back, I'm going right back to work on it.
I guess I'll continue to do what I've done for the last 5 years.
Yep.
I'm going to help veterans, regardless of where they are. I too have Senator Moran's number on speed dial, Jacob Turner, and them guys, so if I need to make a phone call to get something done for a veteran, I can get it done. I do it every day. My job is very rewarding because I get to do it. There is work to do for our veterans here. We do need to fix our homestead bill. There are states out there that our veteran benefits are way better than they are here, and our veterans are leaving here and going to these states. So we need to get into those bills. We need to see what veterans need. I do this every day. I know what our veterans need. I know what our veterans want. Our veterans want access to health care. They want access to medical marijuana. They want access to they want access to us every day. So when you have that veteran call you, that's your job. Just like as you as a citizen. If you call me, and if I'm elected, you call me, or you email me, I'm not going to block you. I'm not going to, just because we don't disagree with something, or we don't agree on something, doesn't give me the grounds to block you. You're still my constituent.
Yep.
I know I'm blocked. I can't reach my representative. Haven't been able to since I decided to run. And he's still my representative. Thank you.
Who helped bring the vets home to northeast Kansas? Mr. Schwartz.
Mr. Barnes, you in the room? Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes, myself, and Senator Jeff Pittman at a legislative dinner in 2017 discussed this. Senator Pittman put it up. It was voted down because Senator Pittman, at the time Representative Pittman, is a Democrat. That bill would have helped us, veterans. It would have helped all of us veterans. But they want to play political games. If the Democrat puts it up, we're going to vote no. And if you think I'm bluffing, watch the League of Women vote for him. Thank you.
So my opponent's concerned that somebody was mean to him on Facebook. I've got my own hate group, so talk to me about it. Every phone call that I get and every email that I get, I answer myself.
Not fact.
That is a fact.
Okay, that's enough. Enough.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Who helped bring the vets home to northeast Kansas?
I just told you that it was an idea that that the veteran service organizations had been telling us they wanted for years and years, and that Senator Pittman had tried to do it twice and has not gotten done. I don't make the rules in Topeka. Topeka is a Republican town. When we send a Democrat to Topeka, we're sending a no vote. We're sending a protest vote, and things don't get done for our town. You send a Republican there, I filed the bill. It got done in the first year. I can't say any simpler than that. If you want to send a protest, a no to Topeka, then my opponent's clearly your guy. If you want to get things done for Leavenworth, get things done for our veterans, and get jobs and opportunity going in our town again, send me back.
The tenor of this event is starting to turn negative. Let's please keep this as positive as we possibly can. Candidates, please. I appreciate that very much. If elected, will you support red flag laws and the banning of assault weapons? Mr. Proctor.
Hell no. Yeah. The U.S. Constitution and the Kansas Constitution are crystal clear on this issue. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the answer to your question. I mean, these mass shootings that you see, red flag laws would not have stopped them. The Uvalde shooter was undiagnosed. He was undiagnosed. No red flag law would have prevented him from purchasing that weapon. What this is about is chipping away at that fundamental right, because the people that don't want you to have guns know that the Second Amendment is America's first freedom. It's the freedom that protects all the other freedoms. If you don't believe me, look at what happened up in Canada with the truckers. Look at what happened in Australia during the quarantines. Hell no, we're not going to have red flag laws.
Mr. Schwartz?
Absolutely not. As a firearm owner, a firearm enthusiast, as a firearms certified instructor through the National Rifle Association, I will not support any laws that infringe on our rights. End of statement, right there. Your guns are safe with me, I promise. Thank you.
This is somewhat lengthy. With inflation at over 8%, many low-income family members are being pressured to save any money after buying groceries, paying rent, and especially filling the gas tank. What can you do to help relieve the pressure of inflation for low-income families, and especially elderly and retired folks living on a fixed income? Mr. Schwartz?
Absolutely. Axe the food tax now. That's a start. Then we can axe the tax on our hygiene items for our people with fixed incomes. Because that's the issue there, is the taxes. If our individuals, our senior citizens, and our disabled people that are on fixed income have access to over-the-counter prescription drugs without having to pay sales tax on it, they have access to, women have access to their hygiene items that they need, not a want, a need, then we have tax relief. More money back in our pockets because we're not paying those taxes. The money's going to come from somewhere. It absolutely is. And we'll figure that out. I do believe we could bring in enough revenue with the medical marijuana to fund that. I do believe that we need to get to that point. We need to give our relief to our elderly, our disabled person, and our fixed income people. Thank you.
So, those are all great ideas, and we've done a lot of them. $900 million and change in tax cuts over the last 2 years. Axing the food tax, lower an income tax for every Kansan, allowing Kansas families to take advantage of the Trump tax cuts. That there used to be a loophole that the state was raking in the windfall that the Kansans were supposed to get on that tax cut. And the Democrats fought us on most of those things. The governor vetoed the food sales tax in 2019. That the Trump tax relief for the allowing Kansas to take advantage of the Trump income tax cuts, she vetoed that. We had to pass it over a veto. So, you've heard that my opponent's going to be anti-mandate. He's not going to take your guns. Well, I'm getting a little bit tired of Democrat politicians in Leavenworth saying one thing when they're trying to get elected and then getting in office and locking arms with all the other Democrats and voting the party line. There's one party that supports your liberty. There's one party that supports your gun rights. There's one party that's trying to cut your taxes so that you've got enough money in your pocket to combat these ridiculous prices that we're having to pay because of Democrat President Joe Biden. And it's not the Democrat.
Do you support Medicaid expansion to include able-bodied adults, even though it may crowd out people with intellectual and physical disabilities who are currently on wait lists for funding of services, sometimes over a decade? Mr. Proctor.
So Medicaid expansion doesn't do what the people who are saying they want Medicaid expansion says it's going to do. Disabled people are already eligible for Medicaid. The elderly are already eligible for Medicaid. Young parents with little kids are already eligible for Medicaid. What this is going to do is expand this program that's already busting at the seams and barely able to support the people that it's required to support by letting able-bodied people into the system. But more than that, the reason that I decided to run 2 years ago, the thing that got me knocking on doors and talking to people and trying to grow our economy and trying to put people back to work, is that we've got a population in my neighborhood up in North Leavenworth. I live on Kickapoo, right off of 7th Street. Up in my neighborhood, we got a population of people that are trapped in second and third generation poverty, trapped in a system that's trying to help them. And the last thing that they need is for us to throw another chain on their back, another salary cap on their lives to discourage them from trying to break out of that brutal cycle and start growing their lives and growing their families and growing their futures.
Our country is in a mental health crisis. It's absolutely out of control. And expanding Medicaid is going to create jobs. It's going to bring doctors in. It's going to get people the treatment they deserve. I have a 16-year-old who has mental health issues. I had to take her to a psychiatrist. 90-day waiting list here in the state of Kansas. And I have health insurance. And the only way that we're getting help here in Kansas is these police officers are arresting these non-criminals because they have this erratic behavior from their mental health condition, and they have nowhere to put them. That's the issue that's really going on here in Leavenworth. They got people overdosing in the streets, but they haven't committed a real crime, and jail's not the answer. I worked in a prison system for 15 years. Prison is not rehab. Prison is not mental health treatment. But if we expand Medicaid, then we can get more mental health treatment and get these people that need the help that they deserve off the streets. That's where I want to expand Medicaid, is to get the treatment here. I've had this conversation with Pat Kitchens. That's our issue here, is the drugs and nothing to do with these individuals that need our help. Expanding Medicaid will get them the help that they need, and it'll make our streets safer than what they already are.
Yep.
If elected, will you support a parent's bill of rights? Mr. Schwartz.
No. And the reason I'm saying no is because I already have my parent bill of rights right here, where I can walk into that school anytime I want, Monday through Friday, to check on my child, to check on her education. And if I don't want to go to the school, I can pull it up on the app. If I don't want to pull it up on the app, I can pull it up on the computer. I am involved in my children's education, and you can be too. The government does not need to be involved in our children's education. We as parents do. Thank you.
So, yes, I will. I voted for it before and I voted for it again. I'll vote for it again. And so, I'm going to talk about health care since this came up. And I think it's important. And I think you need to know where I stand. Medicaid expansion is this mythical unicorn because we have a supermajority in the state of Republicans, and we have not passed this thing in years and years and years. And while we've been not passing it, while we've been using it as a political football, people have been suffering. Which is why, in my first term, I supported the bill that is going to allow us to transition these community mental health centers that are not serving the public to the maximum potential into certified community behavioral health centers. We've already gotten our first $12 million into the state to begin that conversion. It's going to expand the number of services right here at our guidance center and all across the state to deal with this problem. I also fought against the doctors who have for years been blocking the APR bill. It allows advanced practice registered nurses to practice without having to pay a doctor a bribe to get a piece of paper to have a clinic. Where it's already had an effect here on Eisenhower. I'm good friends with Judy Beck, who's got a great clinic. I've already talked to several APRNs who are now looking because they couldn't get that agreement before, looking at opening clinics. That's going to actually do something instead of just being another political football.
What is the most effective next step to ban abortion? Mr. Crocker.
Well, this is a dead issue. I mean, the people of Kansas have spoken. The people of Kansas have spoken, and they've decided that you do not have the right through your legislature to regulate the abortion industry. And so, until the sentiments of the people of Kansas change, we're going to have to deal with this disastrous April 2019 Supreme Court decision, which basically takes this issue off the table for the legislature. There's still things we can do. The abortion industry's own research institute, the Guttmacher Institute, says that abortions are going to go up 10 times here in the state of Kansas now that value of vote has failed. We can't regulate abortion. There's going to be a lot of scared women coming to Kansas trying to make a very difficult decision. And I think that we need to give them all the options. I would like to support pregnancy crisis centers so that they know that there are options besides abortion. But this is no longer an issue that we can legislate on because value of vote failed.
Thank you.
I saw a big billboard on 4th Street that says otherwise. It says pro-life on it. I was always the vote no guy. The reason I vote no is because I believe in our health care. The 2019 disaster Supreme Court decision that came down, let's talk about that. It sat on the legislature's floor for 11 years, and they did nothing with it. Nothing. That's why the Supreme Court struck it down. Not that they just wanted to strike it down because they wanted to. That is why it sat on the floor for 11 years. 62% of you voted no. I support that decision. As a father of 4 daughters, they need to have access to that health care. That man right there tried to deny my children that access when the time comes. I will continue to fight. I am for your health care, your freedoms, and your liberty comes first.
Skip that question for appropriateness.
back to work.
Right.
Why do you support medical marijuana, and in what form? Mr. Schwartz.
I've seen firsthand what medical marijuana does. I've seen it help veterans. I'm going to tell you a life-changing story. I have a friend who lived in Florida, and he moved to Florida to get his medical marijuana card because he couldn't get the treatment that he wanted here. He is a veteran. He was stationed here in Leavenworth. His sisters are what we like to call Nancy Reagans. Just say no. In a matter of 16 months, he was able to convince his two Nancy Reagan sisters of otherwise because they saw him grow. They saw him develop, and they saw him become a better man because he was able to manage his pain. He was able to manage his PTSD. He was able to keep it together so he could live a normal, healthy life. When it comes to medical marijuana, it's all about healthcare. It truly does work. I promise you, I've seen it firsthand, not just on one veteran, but many. I have veterans that come in my office just about every day. They're afraid they're going to lose their benefits if they do marijuana. They live in Missouri. I explain to them the VA cannot touch your benefits because you're doing marijuana, even if it is illegal. With that being said, I support your right to medicine, and that's a medicine that this state needs. Thank you.
My opponent clearly knows more about smoking pot than I do, so I'll defer to him on whether it's chock full of vitamins and minerals. But I voted, I have the deepest sympathy for folks that are really suffering and could be helped by marijuana. That's why this year, I voted to move all the things that are on that are legal on the federal schedule to become legal in Kansas that are made with marijuana. That's why I voted for a plan that would have allowed marijuana to be dispensed in pharmacies. That's why I voted for a plan that would have decriminalized it for people that had a legitimate medical need. They could have plants at their home, they could be driving around with it in their car, and they wouldn't be arrested or they wouldn't be convicted. But that's not what the pot industry wants. What the pot industry wants is what they did in Colorado, what they've done in Oklahoma, what they're doing right now in Missouri. They want to build all the infrastructure for recreational marijuana. And if you want that, if that's what you desire, then I'm not your candidate, because I have seen what it does in Colorado, I've seen what it does in Oklahoma, and it is not good for communities like Leavenworth. So I am all for ways of giving people who have a medical need access, but I'm not for inviting in this huge Trojan horse of the marijuana industry to pave the way for recreational marijuana.
All right. Yeah. Last question. What would you do to stop skyrocketing property taxes? Mr. Proctor.
Well, what we've done so far is, frankly, duct tape and baling wire, but it's a start. I fought hard, along with Senator Karen Tyson and a few other folks that really were passionate about it, for truth in taxation. What truth in taxation does is it stops the shell game. What used to happen is the county assessor would raise all our valuations. I don't know about you, my house went up 13% every year for the last few years. And the city, the county, and the school board sit on their hands and say, well, we're not raising mill levies. That's the guy that raised your taxes. So after truth in taxation, you get a letter in the mail, and it tells you this is the time and the place when the school board, the city commission, the county are going to vote to raise your taxes. And y'all turned out. And the school board in Leavenworth decided this year that they're going to remain revenue neutral. They're not going to raise their taxes. The city went down to 1 mill. The county went down to 0.75 mils, which means they're still raising your taxes, but it's a big cut compared to previous years. And they did it without cutting any services. The school was sitting on a huge pot of money. But what we really got to do is fix the valuations. And if you send me back to Topeka, I'm going to go right to work on a constitutional amendment because valuations are written into the Constitution. We've got to change the Constitution if we want to fix property assessment.
Mr. Schwartz?
I reviewed the Miller Annex bill. It is a great bill. It's a great start. It really is. We have to put our heads together. We have to come together as legislators, as representatives, and we have to put together something that makes sense. Something that's going to bring us relief. Continuing to take control and over the county level, at the state level, is not going to be conducive for what we need done. If we continue to chip away at our freedom and rights at the county level, before you know it, the state's controlling everything. But we can stop that. We can do that together. But yes, common sense, bring good heads together, bring people together, figure out what's going on, and make the adjustments as needed. But we have to start somewhere, and I think the Miller Annex bill is a great place to start. Thank you. It's also on my Facebook page if you want to review the bill.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, time for closing comments from each of you. And since we're alternating, we'll go with Mr. Schwartz, please.
Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, sir. Thank you, we the people, for hosting this. Again, thank you, Senator, or Mr. Proctor, for coming out tonight. I'm not here to take away your rights. I'm not here to take away your liberties. I'm here to fix things and make things right. I'm here to work with the people, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, unaffiliated. I'm here to work with everybody. I assure you, our rights and freedoms are safe. I'm not going to sit here, if I don't agree with it, like I stated before, I'm not going to vote with it if it's not going to help us here in Leavenworth, here in Kansas. Your vote's important. I really urge you to get online, review both of us very well, and make a sound, informed decision. I want to represent you. I want to fix our community. I want to put money back in our pockets. That $1 billion surplus, there's no reason why we can't distribute that back and put that money back in our pockets. No reason whatsoever. And that's what I want to do, is take that surplus and I want to put it back in our pockets. It's not going to break the bank. I'm sure we don't have 1 billion residents here in the state of Kansas. So representing you, your freedoms are safe, your liberties are safe, your August 2nd vote is safe. I vow to go out and work for you, the people. Again, I will not block you. I will listen to your concerns. We are not going to agree on everything, and I know that. And common sense knows that. So I know you know that. Just let's come together. Let's put ideas together. If you think you have an idea that might work, send it to me. I'll look it over, and I'll let you know what I think. If you disagree with me, I will tell you why I voted the way I voted, or made the decision I made. I'm not going to keep that from you. I'm here for you. I'm not here for my special interest. I'm not here for the Democratic Party. I'm here for you, us, my children, your children, our grandchildren. I want what's best for Kansas, and I'm what's best for Kansas. Thank you.
I decided to run 2 years ago because of my neighbors. Like I said before, too many folks in my neighborhood are trapped in a system that was supposed to help them, that's keeping them poor. And it's condemning their kids to being poor, and it's condemning their grandkids to being poor. And I'm just not going to participate in that anymore. And that's why I decided to run. And I also decided to run because I was tired of folks telling us they were going to do one thing when they were trying to get elected, and then going to Topeka and doing something completely different. And so I kept my word to you, and I've gotten results for Leavenworth. I kept my word to you, bringing jobs and opportunity back to Leavenworth. I got the historic tax credit bill passed, which has already started spurring investment in our downtown, in our small businesses, and those storefronts that have been vacant for years and years and years. I've already, I also voted for the Apex bill that's bringing the Panasonic plant with 4,000 jobs, and suppliers with another 4,000 jobs. God willing, some of them will make Leavenworth County their home. I am keeping my word to you by fighting and standing with those who protect us. The Veterans Home, trying to get pay for our active Guard and Reserve soldiers, service members exempted, so that more of them will make Kansas their residence. And when they're done, they'll come back here and they'll grow their lives. And I fought for you, safeguarding our liberty. And I kept my word to you. And securing our election system and fighting against unconstitutional mandates. If I have the honor of your vote to continue to serve you, I'm going right back to work on these issues. It's not a secret what I'm going to be working on. I have a town hall every month. Every month I served, I've had a town hall. I answer every email. You call me, I answer. And I will talk to you about why I voted. I've had a lot of folks show up at my town halls that didn't agree with votes that I've had. Many of them are in this room. Thank you for coming. But what you will know is that if I tell you I'm going to work on something, I'm going to work on it, and 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get it done, because I've already got a lot of the stuff I said I was going to get done for you done. It's been an honor to serve you. Early voting starts next week, October 19th, 8 a.m. through 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. And then Election Day, November 8th, go to your polling place to vote. If you don't know where that is, go to my website. I'll have a link there to tell you where to vote. Thank you.
I want to thank both candidates for participating tonight. It's been very informative, and I think that a lot of folks are getting a better view of your standing and your position, and will be better informed voters for this period. Please, 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 thank you very much for coming here and participating. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Please vote, and if I can encourage you, please vote for liberty. Thank you very much tonight. Please be safe.